Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unclipped. I am your host, Imani Brown, aka the Spincess, and I'm so glad that you all are here. Our first order of business is if you are just tuning in and this is your first time listening to the podcast, I do suggest that you go ahead and watch the inaugural episode of the podcast. It'll just give you a little bit of insight on what type of space I am attempting to cultivate here, or what type of podcast I want to create. And you can listen to that audio only or watch a video as well. So again, if this is your first time here, I suggest you go ahead and tune into that episode also. If you all wouldn't mind, I would love if you all shared my content, liked and subscribed or followed on any or all platforms. It really means a lot. The support and the love means a lot, and it also means a lot when you all show it to the platforms as far as like numbers go and things like that. So if you haven't already and you like the podcast, I would love it if you shared and or subscribed, followed, liked, all of that analytical stuff. So now that that's out of the way, we'll just jump right into our topic today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about detours, and I wanted to preface this episode with a anecdote here. So on my street, they've been doing some construction for like a really long while, and they're doing like a big overhaul of our underground sewage system. So like the entire street and then like other streets beyond this are all blocked off, and they have tons of signs leading from like pretty much every entry point, every entry and exit point that there is, and they let everyone know that there's no through traffic, right, and that there's going to be some detours. They've got like nice big digital signs that let everyone know what the detour routes are and that they cannot pass through this particular block. And sometimes I'll just be chilling in the house looking out the window and I observe people approach these signs expecting to enter the road as like through traffic. But once they read that the road is closed, they do one of two things. They either speed off really angrily in the direction of the detour, so they follow the detour, but they do it with a lot of animosity towards that forced detour. Or they either drive right past the detour sign, ignoring it, somehow thinking that it's incorrect and that they will be able to get through, only to be met with a road that is actually obstructed, which forces them to actually still take the detour anyway. So they're angry as well. And like I said, I watch this happen a lot day in and day out, and it makes me think about how we approach the detours that we face in life, both literally and figuratively. So first, before we sort of transfer from this anecdote to like us applying this logic towards our life, I want us to get a clear understanding of what a detour truly is in the context of our life. In general, a detour is simply, at its core, a change in the course of our life, or our path that takes us off of the intended path, the one that we set out to take. And while a detour does change the path, and of course the journey along the way, it's important that we note that they do not necessarily change the destination. And so often I think we perceive detours as roadblocks and sort of stumbling blocks that hinder our progress, or even sometimes we see them as failures. Like we'll encounter a detour in our life and we'll turn back around and abandon the mission because we think that detour is a sign that we should quit or that we failed at what we set out to do. And I know it's disheartening to witness our plans go off course, but what if we shifted our perspectives? What if we thought about detours as more than just an unexpected roadblock? So I want you to really think about it. How many times have you faced an unexpected twist in your life that seemed like a setback, only to move along with your life and then realize later that it was an integral part of your journey? I know that a lot of us have had so many experiences that we look back in hindsight, we're like, wow, that little unexpected twist or turn was absolutely for the better. And the way that life took me wasn't the way that I wanted to go, right? It wasn't the path that I set out to go on when I was in the midst of my journey, but the path that life took me was the better path. And like, how many times has the detours that we've encountered proved crucial to our success at that destination? Because again, that destination doesn't necessarily have to change, and more often than not, it doesn't change when we encounter that detour. It is just the path that is different. Thrown in that, when a wrench gets thrown, oh my gosh, I can't speak. When a wrench gets thrown in those plans, it can be disheartening. But the more twists and turns I think that life throws in our way, and the detours towards our goals, the more that we're able to learn and grow from those situations, and the more that we're able to be equipped for that end goal that we have. So I want us to delve a little bit further into the idea that detours serve a purpose. I think that they might offer us some very valuable lessons and opportunities for growth that we wouldn't have necessarily had otherwise. Life's detours can lead to experiences and realizations that we wouldn't have happened upon on our normal course of action. And sometimes we are so fixated on our original path that we overlook the alternative routes that might be even more rewarding or better opportunities for growth and development. I mean, we love to exist inside of our comfort zone, and detours may force our hand in existing outside of that comfort zone. Because like I said, I think it's human nature to have these routines and operate merely inside of that comfort zone. We heavily value safety and sort of the goodness behind like the average status quo decision, with all the insanity going on, instability that we face in our external world. It can be very comfortable and feel very good to just have that normal day to day, like no twists or turns, like, this is how this is going to go. And we're not going to do anything risky or crazy. But I will say our best selves exist outside of that comfort zone. And sometimes we quite literally need the circumstances to force us to exist outside of our comfort zones and finally make that step. It's really, I don't think, like natural for most of us to just like go ahead and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to take the risk. Like a lot of times, in a lot of situations in my life, my hand was literally forced, because I've been contemplating a decision or contemplating taking a risk, and I just couldn't get myself to step outside of the comfort of the normal decision. And when my hand was forced, obviously, I didn't have a choice. And there's some great things that come out of you sort of being coerced by the universe to make a decision. I think it's essential for us to realize that detours do provide us with opportunities to explore new facets of life, to learn and to adapt. Also, I think they challenge us to sort of reevaluate our goals and strategies and motivations, and allow us to see our lives and journeys from a perspective we probably would have never chosen or even happened upon. But it's no secret that these detours are difficult to deal with, right? Like I can say all these things like, oh, they help broaden our horizons and make us better people and, more confident and stronger and all that stuff. But I will not ignore the fact that these detours are incredibly difficult to deal with. And it can seem as though this rerouting is totally derailing us from our goals at some points. But we must attempt to actively seek the lessons in these detours. And I think this is sort of a trend with my content on here, as far as these sort of like life lessons, I guess. is that all of this work that we have to do is, like I said, it's work. None of these lessons, none of these habits are things that we're gonna just sort of develop without doing the work. They're very intentional, and they require us to be an active participant in our lives, and require us to want to continually improve the quality of our lives. And so if you aren't committed to doing the work, these words just mean nothing. So not only can these detours introduce these positive circumstances, like broadening our horizons and teaching us to adapt, and giving us new perspectives, but they can also serve as a point to minimize the negative things that we encounter in our path. So like I spoke about in episodes 3 and 4, I was in an abusive relationship in all regards, and while I was in undergrad. And I also had a complete mental breakdown, which forced me to medically withdraw from school. So this blow was devastating because school was my life. Like, it was the one thing that I was always good at. It was the one thing that was just like in my nature to do and to enjoy. So I thought my path, this derailing in my path was like that I wasn't going to accomplish my goal. Like, the end goal, not the ultimate end goal, but one of the end goals was to graduate college, obviously. And I thought that this sort of wrench in my plan meant that I couldn't get to that, but it was merely a detour, right? Now I realize that me having that mental breakdown was a detour of sorts. Because I withdrew from school, I went back home to New York, back home to my support system, and to people who could help me. And I was able to leave my abuser through those geographical boundaries and other reasons, but that ultimately saved my life, right? And I still got to that end goal. I still was able to graduate college in the end, but that detour literally saved my life. And life is crazy sometimes because it often has a way of knowing what's best for us even when we can't see it ourselves. Like, you couldn't have told me that when I was headed back to New York from Kentucky that life was going to work out better. You couldn't have told me that the detour was the thing that was going to save me, and that I was still going to continue on the path that I had set out when I came to Kentucky. There would be no convincing me. And now, sitting here years later and realizing that the detour was a blessing in disguise, I think that I am in a lucky position and a unique position to sort of be a testament to the fact that these insane detours, because that was insane, these insane detours can make your life better and really protect you from harm, whether it be bodily harm or something else. And oftentimes it's not just about reaching our destination, it's also about arriving there safely with the wisdom and strength that we gain from navigating those detours. I'm not sure how I would have escaped that situation had life not literally forced me to escape it. And I escaped it with my life and with a host of wisdom and knowledge that is invaluable to me. So the next time you face an unexpected twist in your journey, I want you to consider it as life's way of protecting you possibly from unseen dangers and leading you to a more secure and rewarding destination. Additionally, these detours can lead us to unexpected opportunities and experiences. So not only can we be internally changed from these detours or learn things intrinsically, but there's also sort of external things that we can happen upon through these detours. And we may not have encountered these things otherwise. And it's important to approach these situations with an open mind, a willingness to learn and grow. Instead of focusing solely on the destination, we can learn to appreciate the journey and the lessons that come with it. Detours can also teach us to be patient and trust the process. Sometimes the path we have planned for ourselves may not be the best one for us. And detours can redirect us to where we need to be. We could have gotten a little bit off course. And we can think that we're still on course, but that might not necessarily be the truth. And sometimes these little detours can help us just whip us into shape a little bit. And so by embracing the detours and being open to these new possibilities, we can ultimately find our way back on track and even discover maybe a better path towards our goals. So overall, and I can't stress this enough, I wanna stress that facing these detours in life can be challenging. I know it's easier said than done. I know I can sit up here and talk until I'm blue in the face and say these things, but it's challenging, but it is doable. But these detours can be valuable learning experiences if we just sort of approach them with an open mind and some grace. And by approaching them with this open mind and willingness to adapt, we can build resilience and discover new opportunities and ultimately find our way towards that ultimate success and fulfillment that I think most of us crave. So like I said, I can say all this stuff and say like, oh, we need to accept, these detours and just take them and, sing Natasha Bedingfield in our convertible while we take these detours. But that's nothing without sort of like strategies to approach these detours with, because if we don't have ways to deal with them, we can say that we should deal with them all we want, but we won't be able to. So I just thought about this a little bit. And one way I think to cultivate a positive mindset towards these detours is by setting, I'm going to call them like detour goals. So these are like I guess objectives that we can work towards while navigating the detour. So like we have little like side quests, I guess, in these detours. So by setting these detour goals, we give ourselves something to focus on and work towards, even if our original plans have been disrupted. So like we could be kind of upset that our original plans have been disrupted, but if we implement these little detour goals, these little side quests to complete on that detour, it can make it a little bit easier, and we could feel a little bit more fulfilled and like we haven't necessarily failed on our quest for our end goal. And these detour goals can be small, like learning a new skill or exploring a new neighborhood, or they can be like more significant and profound, like starting a new project at work or at school, or pursuing a new career path, starting a new business, things of that nature. But the idea is that when we implement these little goals that we have, we don't focus so much on the fact that we are on a detour necessarily, but we embrace the opportunity to learn new things on that detour. And the key is to approach these detours with a sense of openness and curiosity, rather than dwelling on what we've lost or what we can't do by not being able to align with that original path. We can embrace the unexpected and explore new possibilities. And by doing so, we can transform detours from setbacks, perceived setbacks, because they're not setbacks, they're only perceived as setbacks by us, into opportunities for growth and transformation. And so another way I thought about cultivating a positive sort of mindset towards these detours is to practice some self-compassion. We are so hard on ourselves, especially when things go wrong. And there are a lot of things that we cannot control, and there are a lot of things we can, but I think we tend to be really hard on ourselves about the things that we have no control over. And it's really easy to get frustrated or discouraged when plans don't go as expected. But being kind to ourselves during these times can help us to stay motivated and focused. It doesn't help us to be mean to ourselves when things don't go correctly. We're never going to be able to get a good strategy or get back on track if we're just self-depreciating. So practicing the self-compassion just means acknowledging our struggles without judgment, on ourselves. And I want us to be intentional about reminding ourselves that setbacks are a normal part of life. And I also think we need to practice treating ourselves with the same kindness and receptiveness and understanding that we would offer one of our good friends. I want you to think about how you interact with your really good friends unless you're a really crappy friend. But I want you to think about the compassion and the lovingness and the understanding that you use when you help friends get through a problem or listen to them vent or anything of that nature. And I want you to apply that to yourself instead of being so hard on yourself. But ultimately, the way that we approach the detours in life can have a significant impact on our overall well-being and success. And I really want to stress that. And again, it's important for us to keep in mind that detours are not necessarily roadblocks. And instead, they're often paths that lead us to a new and exciting opportunity that we may not have otherwise encountered. So maybe we should approach these things with like childlike wonder and sort of like uber curiosity and be excited for an opportunity you might not have necessarily had otherwise. And by approaching these detours with a sense of curiosity, we can discover new passions, possibly skills, perspectives, people, experiences, all the things that we never knew existed. So again, it's not always easy to stay positive in the face of unexpected challenges. And another way that makes it a little bit easier to deal with these detours is to have a good support system. Like I mentioned before, in the midst of the biggest detour of my life to date, hopefully ever, because that was kind of crazy. In the midst of the biggest detour of my life, I had an incredibly strong support system. And that's really how one of the big ways I got through it. So if you have people that are willing to support you and willing to listen to you and lend a helping hand, I suggest that you utilize those resources and allow them to help you, whether it be friends, family, or professional coaches, therapists, whatever. Having someone to turn to can make all the difference in how you deal with these detours. So the next time you encounter a detour on your path, I want you to remember that it's not the end of the road. It's not a stop sign. It's not a stop light. It's not a dead end. It's not a cliff off into the abyss. Instead, it's an opportunity to explore new avenues, connect with new people, and discover new parts of yourself that might not have surfaced had you taken that original path. I want you to embrace the unknown, stay positive, and trust that every detour is an opportunity in disguise. So in closing, I'd love to hear your stories about detours that you faced that were actually opportunities for growth or shielding you from danger, because I know we all have very unique and profound experiences, and I love to hear from other people. Or maybe share what your biggest challenge is when you face a detour, or even what are you going to try and implement going forward to accept and embrace the detours that life throws your way. I really want to up some engagement interaction here. I really want to hear from you all because I know you all have really valuable things to say. So with that, we close this episode out. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe and share. And I will see you all in the next episode. Thank you. Bye.